Pokemon, a series kids around the world grew up with. I have amazing memories of taking on Blue and Lance, struggling to get through all those Dragonites, exploring 2 regions in Silver, the incredible trumpets of Hoenn and battling May under the bridge, facing down Steven at the end of the long journey in the Elite Four, exploring Sinnoh as a whole, traveling through the Distortion World to face Giratina, and fighting Cynthia in one of the most memorable battles, combining both an incredible soundtrack and a tough battle. Pokemon has a special place in my heart, and all those memories that you no doubt share yourself with your own unique experiences here and there. I've had incredible experiences playing Pokemon, experiencing the world, the excitement that we have going through a new region. All of these wonderful memories. And then I asked myself, can I recall a similar experience in any of these newer Pokemon games? I myself cannot. I find that whenever I try to think back on experiences from these newer games that impacted me like the ones above, I draw a blank. I cannot recall any positive experiences throughout any of these newer games. The recent round of Pokemon games, from Pokemon X and Y all the way to Pokemon Sword and Shield, I didn't play BDSM. All of these games have issues that give me great cause for concern for Legends. Issues that if they continue to exist in Legends, it will lead to Legends being another just forgettable Pokemon game. And this isn't just true for me. Me and many other fans of the Pokemon franchise up until this point have bought and loved every single Pokemon game until, the recent run of them. But for us, the longtime fans, a lot of us, this is Pokemon's last chance to try and keep us around. For Legends to have its Breath of the Wild moment for Pokemon, several things are going to need to be addressed in this game that I really hope that Game Freak addressed. So let me talk about those issues. Number 1, and the biggest downfall that me and many other longtime fans of the series have had with these newer games, is it's very, very hand-holdy. If you don't know what hand-holding is in video games, basically it is the creators of a game basically walking you through the game, making the process and your journey through the game as easy and basically streamlined as possible. It's very point, you go there. Oh, point, you go there. Oh, you can't go that way yet. Games that do a lot of hand-holding have huge, huge problems because it feels like you're being railroaded onto their story. You're not allowed to just go off and do your own thing. Basically, they put you on some railroad tracks and they say, here you go, buddy. Experience the game the way we want you to experience it. Experium. I don't like this because it doesn't allow the player themselves to figure out what to do, where to go. Just basically experience the game the way they want to experience it. In the newer Pokemon games, it feels like every single route has places to either heal your Pokemon or immediately travel you back to the town you've been to last. If these issues only existed in the beginning parts of the game, that would be one thing. But they're not contained in just one area. They exist all throughout the game. It just feels like you're not allowed to make your own mistakes. Because that's one of the beauties of playing video games, is making mistakes and learning from them. This isn't me saying that other Pokemon games besides the new ones haven't been linear. I mean, they have been. You have one overall goal in Pokemon when you boot it up and start playing it. You go through the region, you battle all the gym leaders, you get the gym badges, you take on the Elite Four, you become the champion. That is the entire process of Pokemon. It has always been. It's rather linear, but it's the way that it was packaged in the old days compared to how it is packaged now. To express my meaning, I will take us back all the way to Pokemon Blue. Beginning Pokemon Blue, you are introduced to Professor Oak and the whole open screen oh, here's the world of Pokemon, I'm Professor Oak. Figure it out. And then you awaken in your room and you're not really given much direction on what to do. For me, I left my room and I started just roaming around, seeing what was around. And I went and I found the Pokemon lab and I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to go. Walked in there, nobody's here. Professor Oak, not home. Don't know why that is. I go back outside, and after roaming around a little more, I find the tall grass, and after trying to walk in the tall grass, Professor Oak is like, no, don't do that. Wild Pokemon are in there. You need your own. Come with me, small child. Let me give you your Pokemon. From there, you pick your Pokemon, you battle your rival, and then you're given the Professor Oak Parcel Delivery Arc. And then the game is open to you as a whole. Professor Oak gives you your Pokedex and then basically gives you one goal, to fill up the Pokedex. And then you're kind of just unleashed onto the rest of the game to kind of figure it out. This is very different from how Pokemon games are treated today. In the old days, you were left to figure out that you were supposed to do the gym challenges. I know your rival mentioned, like, I'm gonna go do the gym challenges and become the leader and the champion of the world. But in the newer Pokemon games, there's usually this overarching challenge that kind of like forces you to go on, either like the Island Challenge or the big Pokemon Coliseum challenges. I mean, like, it's not that those ideas aren't bad, it's just the execution of them is not good. What I'm getting at is, yes, the games have always been linear, but again, it is about how it is packaged. It is how the game is introducing itself to you. It's how the game is introducing the goal to you. Back in the old days, you kind of just you stumble upon the gym challenges. I have to do the gym challenges in order to progress in the routes, progress in the region, to find new Pokemon and fill up the Pokedex. These old games, they never had to tell you what to do, where to go, how to go, exactly. They never needed to give you this roadmap on steps to beat the game. Because the game was built in such a way that you would eventually figure it out yourself while, exploring at your own pace, wherever you wanted to go. Unlike the new Pokemon games where they expressly tell you where to go, and sometimes they've even had, your whole team of trainers, team of main characters in the story. They've had them slowly walk through the forest showing you exactly where to go. And for me, it's very irritating when a game company is trying to hold your hand and tell you exactly where to go and how to go because they think, oh, you're just too stupid to figure it out. I was 5 years old when I started playing Pokemon. I was very stupid, but I figured it out. The game never had to expressly tell me where to go, how to go, and what to do. I mean, yeah, there were hints here and there on what to do, where to go, name drops here and there. But it was never let me hold your hand and drag you down this route. They tried to introduce this overcoaching and, oh god, the excessive cutscenes is also irritating. If you go back and look through, especially Sun and Moon is the biggest culprit. If you try and replay Sun and Moon, you'll see that every single route has cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, telling you where to go, how to go, what to do. You can hardly actually start playing the fucking game. And these overcoachings and these excessive cutscenes, they've tried to go in a route where they're trying to ingrain their story along with your journey through the region and everything. Which is it's not a bad idea, but Game Freak has never been good with actually incorporating an actual story in their game. And I'm not trying to say that Gen 1 through 4 had this incredible, it wasn't this masterpiece of storytelling and character development. I mean they were okay. But Game Freak has never, Pokemon's big strong point has never been its stories. It's always been, for me, it's always been the journey throughout the region with your Pokemon, battling the gym leaders and stuff like that. That, for me, has been the great appeal of Pokemon. And the older games played into that aspect really well. They did this by not being story-centric. Now, no Pokemon game has ever had an actual good story. They've tried, but if you compare the stories of any of the Pokemon games, they don't compare to games that have even subpar stories, and they certainly don't compare to terrific narratives like God of War, Persona 5, things like that. These older games never forced a story down your throats. It was kind of always the sideshow of Pokemon. Sure, the sideshow would happen here and there, and you would be experiencing the quote-unquote story of the game, but the main focus of those games was battling the gym leaders, battling your rival, creating, different types of teams, discovering new Pokemon, evolving your Mons, completing the Pokedex. Those are all of the main features of Pokemon. Those are all of the main attractions to Pokemon. It just seems like Game Freak lost the point of their games. Ever since I started playing open world games, I started thinking how cool it would be if Pokemon would be an open world game. Think about it. Traveling and going wherever you wanted, catching Pokemon in these insane places like at the peaks of mountains or at the deepest, darkest part of a cave. Exploring this vast open region. For me, that would be the perfect Pokemon game. I've always thought that Pokemon could be at its absolute best if it were in an open world setting, if it had an open world game. But there are a lot of ways this can go wrong, especially in Game Freak's hands. Ever since Breath of the Wild released, everyone was like, do you see what's possible on the Switch? It is possible to have this insane, incredibly well-built open world game, because Breath of the Wild is realistically one of the best open world games that has ever been made. Everyone saw that it was possible to have this great open world that is very vast and very alive. Something in Breath of the Wild that is very apparent is the love and care put into the development of that game. You can tell that that game was essentially a love letter to the series of Zelda. If you look back at some interviews, you'll see them talk about how they thought about if certain concepts in Breath of the Wild was fun in a 2D space before they even thought about developing it in a 3D space. Things like cutting down trees, making fire, combining items to make different foods. They wanted to make sure that the game and elements of the game were fun before they started developing the game itself. Game Freak has not shown such care to their series in a very, very long time, if ever. Game Freak should be using Breath of the Wild as basically this bullet point presentation on how to make Legends. They just have to be competent enough to understand. And I'm not saying that they have to copy it one for one, just add Pokemon in, because that wouldn't work. But they could use features that Breath of the Wild introduced in their great vast open world into their own game, into Legends. One of my biggest problems in basically all of games is whenever areas are walled off to the players that don't allow you to go past a certain point. This isn't a unique problem to just Pokemon. I mean, it exists in like 95% of games that is out there. In every single Pokemon game, there's always a place that you go to, and there's just this big wall of either people or things or Pokemon, just things that you can't get by. Sometimes there are interactable items like trees that need cut or rocks that need smashed. Games use this because they want you to stay in the area that you're supposed to be in. They want you to do the things that they want you to do to progress the game forward. For me, I feel like that is very lazy from the developers. Basically saying that, hey, you can't go in these places before you do these things. But I always think that good creative developers find ways to allow the players to figure out what they're supposed to do. Figure out that, oh, I'm not supposed to be here yet, but they don't wall you off from the area you're not supposed to go to yet. Because maybe doing what you're supposed to do isn't your style of playing games. Maybe you want to go to the next route. Maybe you want to just go into like the Walmart for like 5 hours and then get lost. Maybe you don't want to do the main story stuff or go fight the gym leader immediately. Maybe you want to look around. You know, explore the area and get to the goal of the area in your own time. Breath of the Wild handled this problem brilliantly. In Breath of the Wild, after you finish the beginning area, you're basically unleashed onto the world. You're given like, you know, the main tasks that you need to do, but it lets you choose when and where to go. You can choose to immediately go and do the Divine Beast missions while running into side quests on your way. Or you can choose to run straight to the castle. In Breath of the Wild, you're allowed to go to the end goal of the game. You're allowed to raid the castle from the beginning. And that's how speedrunners, you know, complete the game so fast, because they're allowed to go straight into the castle to fight Ganon instantly and deal with all of the troubles and hell that is the castle at the end of that game. Breath of the Wild did this tremendous balancing act where they essentially discourage players from going to places that they weren't supposed to be yet without actively telling them that you're not supposed to be here yet and walling them off. They allowed them to go in and make their own mistakes. Sure, you can go into the last castle of the game, you can go into the last dungeon of the game, but be prepared. Before you even get to the castle, you see the guardians, the big full-on guardians, roaming around before you even get to the castle. And if you can get past those guys without dying with your 3 hearts, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and go into the castle again, where you're met with all of basically just the in-game boss monsters and stuff. You could do those things if you really wanted to. You would eventually figure out like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here yet. Maybe I come back later. That is something that Breath of the Wild did incredibly. They did this by essentially adding the condition of temperature. You couldn't get too hot or too cold, otherwise you would die. But you could do things to prepare yourself for those areas so you could actually traverse them. You could either make potions, get different clothes, or you could say, nah, that's not for me, and just dive straight into the area itself. And you would meet the harsh reality of, oh, I can't handle this without some preparation. It seems so simple to add in because it is. And these small, simple changes of just conditions for different areas will eventually add up with a lot of other simple things to become something complex, a problem for the players to solve. Or you could just wall them off and say, no, you can't go here. Which way do you think is more entertaining from a player's perspective? And many companies can learn from Breath of the Wild by adding in similar functions or conditions to their own games. Legends being one that could greatly benefit from this. No, I'm also adding in certain functionality that I think personally would just make the game phenomenal. So know that you're also getting my personal flavor in there. The big thing that I'm trying to hit home on, if Legends is trying to be this big, grand, open world game, then it has to be... If Legends is trying to be this grand, vast, open world game, then it has to be open world. Not halfway. No sword and shield, empty fields type thing. It has to be all the way open world. Once you're done with the intro of the game, once you're given your Pokemon and your Pokedex, that's it. Let go. None of the hand-holdy stuff where it just drags you along the story saying like, you need to go here, you need to go there. And you can't wall off areas from players. You have to allow the game to be open world. Let the player go wherever they want to go, but also add these small conditions in that will discourage them from advancing in certain areas. Something that I feel is so unbelievably obvious that Game Freak seems to have forgotten is to have the Pokemon that is in your party help you not only battle, but also help you traverse and interact with the world as a whole. Have areas that are difficult or impossible to traverse unless you have a Pokemon of a certain typing to help you in those areas. If you're traveling through a cave, put boulders and rocks and rough terrain in the way of the players and have them use their own Pokemon in their own party to help them overcome these issues, these problems. Traversing a very cold region, maybe have a fire-type Pokemon that can keep you warm in those areas. Adding in functionality for the player's party to help them throughout the region would be incredibly, one, immersive, and two, it would just make sense. HMs were originally provided to perform this service, to allow your team to be useful and basically like integral for you to get through the region. And I'm not saying bring HMs back, but bring the idea back. Don't bring HMs back. You don't need them. Just build it into the Pokemon. If your Pokemon is a water type, it should always be able to swim. If your Pokemon is a bird, it should always be able to bird. Balancing this wouldn't realistically be that difficult either, because you can add more conditions to your player character. If you don't want the players to immediately be able to fly or to ride their Pokemon, good. Just give them some rumors that there is somebody out there in the region, in maybe this certain area, that is able to ride Pokemon and teach others how to ride their Pokemon. Give them an incentive and a reason to go out of their way to find this person so they can learn how to ride on their Staraptor or swim across the ocean on their Gyarados. Things like that, because people wouldn't realistically be able to know how to ride their Pokemon unless they were trained to do so. I mean, you can't jump on a horse and immediately be like, I can ride a horse perfectly. I know exactly what to do. No, it's not realistic. But if you implement like a teacher somewhere out in the world that can teach your player a skill to allow you to use your team more effectively, that functionality is great. Adding this functionality would do a lot for the players themselves. One, they would be encouraged to build a diverse team of Pokemon that could help them in certain areas. Let's face it, we all either know of a person or are that person that gets comfortable with only a select few Pokemon just in general. Whether you begin a new Pokemon game or replay an older one, Some of us get trapped in our comfort zones of Pokemon. We've never really branched out to use other mons. I myself have been guilty of this on many occasions because I want to use Gyarados in every region because he's Gyarados. But that can limit my overall experiences. I can gain new experiences with other Pokemon in the region. Who knows, maybe there's just this weird, obscure Pokemon that I've just never used before that's actually very viable to just play through the game with. You'll never figure that out unless you go out and actually experiment and do it yourself. Adding in this functionality would encourage the players to branch out, get new Pokemon, get different Pokemon that they haven't used before in order to explore the region as a whole. And who knows, maybe you'll find out that you actually like a certain Pokemon a lot more than you initially thought after using it. Again, most of this is my imagination running wild and things that you could potentially do with this game. Plus, you could also put rare Pokemon in these hard to get places, like at the peak of a mountain or in the deepest depths of a cave. I'm afraid, though, that this functionality is not going to exist. For one reason, and a reason that I have had many issues with Pokemon in the past. Through all the trailers and the teasers that we've gotten so far, they have confirmed that we're going to be given ride Pokemon again to help us go through the region. And for me, I personally have a big problem with the riding Pokemon feature. I hate this feature. I think this feature is stupid. Because having these random ride Pokemon, like they just come out of nowhere and help you, I feel like it strips the job of the Pokemon that is on your team. Isn't the whole goal of a Pokemon game to have an experience and an adventure with your Pokemon? Not these random ride Pokemon that just come out of nowhere and say, oh, here, you can ride now. Again, I feel like it just strips and it takes away from what the Pokemon could be doing in your own party. The jobs that the ride Pokemon are doing could be done by any amount of Pokemon that is in your party. They already have all of the models for all the Pokemon in the region out in the open world. So why can't we use our own Pokemon that we train to help us traverse and navigate the region? It doesn't make any sense to me to have riding Pokemon. And again, some people may like this functionality. Some people may think, oh, hey, that's cool, that's fun, I like that. I don't. I think it's really dumb. I understand they did that to remove the HM feature, but they could have removed the HM feature by, again, building it into the Pokemon. It doesn't need to be a move. It could just be a condition that a Pokemon already has inherently. It just ruins an aspect of the game that could have been fun for developing different team composition for players. The last thing that I want to touch on, and again, this is another personal thing for me, this gets into personal flavor territory for me, is the multiplayer. Pokemon has always branded itself as a game that you can play with your friends and experience with other people. But it's truly not that. Not really. Sure, you can play the game, you can trade and battle Pokemon, you can even have like another raid feature that was in Sword and Shield that could also be in Legends. But that's truly not exploring the region with people. What Pokemon actually is individual experiences that other people have also experienced. If that makes any sense. The functionality that I would love to see, and not only Legends, but in other games as well, especially open world games, is a multiplayer feature that allows you to jump into somebody else's world and truly play multiplayer. Do you understand how good Legends would be and how many hours of that game I would be playing it if I was able to just jump into my friend's world and travel and explore the region together? You can even set a limit for how many people you can have in a multiplayer world. Whether it be just an experience for 2, or maybe you have 4 people maximum in your world. You could do all of that, but allowing you to actually be able to explore with your friends, your actual friends that you know in real life, it would be incredible. It would be an experience that everyone actually shares together. Imagine going over to a friend's house or hopping on Discord and being like, hey, I want to play Pokemon. And your friend's like, oh, dude, me too, man. So you guys jump on Pokemon, and then boom, they're dropped into your world, and you both can see each other and interact with each other and explore the world together. You can truly share an experience together. You can go on these wild, random adventures together. I mean, for me, that's that's a dream for Pokemon. What we've gotten in the past is basically a pseudo multiplayer, and the whole Sword and Shield thing annoyed me to no end whenever you were given like the vast like open region areas and you saw basically these ghosts of people who were also playing, but they were just standing there. They would randomly just run off somewhere, bike away. It was this weird thing of like, you felt, it appeared like you were playing in a multiplayer sense, but you weren't really. That's why I call it pseudo multiplayer, because you see people doing things, but you can't interact with them. You can't see your friend over there and be like, hey, you want to come over here with me and fight this Pokemon or explore this area that we haven't been to yet? You can't do that in Sword and Shield. And that's why Sword and Shield, they added those in, but it made the game feel so much more empty to me. A lot of you may be thinking, oh, Ben. Oh, what the fuck was that? Ben, you're asking for the impossible. No one has done this before. What game has done this before? You'd be right for the most part. What game has done this before? And again, many games could benefit from this. Just to list a few, Ghost of Tsushima and even Breath of the Wild. If they had this multiplayer functionality where people could jump in and join each other's worlds and explore the open world of the game would be very enjoyable. But no game has done this really before, right? What if I told you that a game has existed where this functionality happened and that I personally have played before and have played for years? That game would be Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of Starry Skies. With that game, after you finish the prologue and you get to Stornway, you unlock the feature of multiplayer, where you can invite other people to your world. And it's a feature that most of my friends didn't know existed whenever they played the game back in the day. That game had the ability to summon other people to your world, and they were independent entities from you. They didn't even have to be in the same room or building or even town as you. They were their own character independent from you. They could be doing other things while you handle your business on maybe a quest that they don't really care about. Maybe you're doing some cutscene stuff and they don't want to be a part of that, so they can go off and go battle some monsters or go collect some items or buy some items. They could do that. My brothers and I played this game so much growing up because of this feature. And even like a few years ago, actually no, recently, me and my brother and one of my friends have picked up the game again recently and played through it together. And I gotta say, like, it's still one of the most enjoyable experiences that I had playing a game, because I'm able to share the experience with my brother and my friend. We're able to just build our own unique independent characters and explore the game together. And for me, that's what truly matters when it comes to video games. Sure, it's fun that all of us can have these independent experiences playing games like Pokemon, Jak and Daxter, or any other game. But there's also something to be said about experiencing a game together for the first time. Maybe you played Halo 3 with your brother or your friend all the way through the first time you ever played it. You two shared that experience, and you probably value and remember a lot of that experience because it's special. Sharing an experience with others is incredibly special, especially when it is video games. And I've not seen any other game implement this type of multiplayer. Sure, games like Red Dead 2 has their multiplayer where like, oh, you're in the open world and everything, but you're kind of in the open world multiplayer where you can only do missions if everyone goes to like the mission bubble or someone initiates like something in town, something like that. They can't actually go through the Red Dead 2 story with you. Not saying that's a good or a bad thing. Not saying that Red Dead 2 needed the functionality of having people play through the story cooperatively, but I'm just saying there's something to be said for a game that does have that, like Dragon Quest IX. But if your argument is still, well, that's just too difficult to implement, like it's just a feature that is way too hard to, pull off well, to that I respond with, is it really that difficult? You're telling me that companies nowadays, in the year 2022 now, that it is impossible for a company that has immense capital to figure out a way to do open world multiplayer. To that, I always respond with, you're allowing a company to be lazy and giving you some half-assed product if you think that that functionality is impossible. And you're also telling me that a company back in 2009 created Dragon Quest IX with that exact functionality existing. In 2009, they was able to do it back then, but there's no way they could do it today. If you give them that, you're basically just allowing them to be bad. You're allowing a company to put less effort into something and give you a product that probably isn't worth $60. You're giving them a reason and an excuse to be bad. And I think companies like Game Freak needs to be held accountable when they give us these half-assed, boring games like they have been for the past few years with Pokemon. And that has been my take on the pitfalls that Legends needs to avoid and features that they could add to make the game truly phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. Again, I love Pokemon. I want to see Legends blow away my expectations of this game. I want this to be the best Pokemon game ever. I want it to be that. I want Pokemon Legends Arceus to be the Breath of the Wild for Pokemon. I really, truly do. But my expectations for the game, and as Game Freak as a whole, is incredibly low. I honestly expect this game to be another half put together game that is just okay to slog through. Probably a game that is subpar at best, but was nowhere near worth $60. Because history tells me that Legends is unfortunately going to be another forgettable Pokemon game. And I really don't want that to happen. I really want this game to be successful. I really want this game to prove me wrong. Hopefully I'm making a video in another week after it releases saying, wow, what an incredible game. This game is the best game ever. I really want to be making another video singing the praises of Pokemon. Well, only time will tell. And I'll see you the 28th. I do hope you enjoyed.